The arena floor was stained with blue blood. Creever's blood. He lay on the cold metal surface. His crystalline exoskeleton cracked in 3 places, breathing hard through the pain. Above him stood his younger sibling, Thexcal, barely wounded and radiating triumph. The crowd of Talvothi warriors roared their approval. Creever tried to stand. His legs shook. His arms could barely hold his weight. This was supposed to be his moment, his chance to prove he belonged among his people. The combat trial was a sacred tradition. Every young Talvothi faced it. Every young Talvothi passed it. Every young Talvothi except him. Thexcal looked down at him with something worse than hatred. It was pity mixed with disgust. The younger sibling turned to the crowd and raised his arms in victory. The cheers grew louder. No one looked at Creevar anymore. He had become invisible in his defeat. High Huntress Velkara, their broodmother, sat in the place of honor. Her face showed no emotion as she watched her eldest offspring struggle on the arena floor. When the combat master approached her, she spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. The void marked has failed. He carries the mark of weakness in his blood. I claim no kinship with this creature. The words hit harder than any blow Thexcal had landed. Creevar felt something break inside him that had nothing to do with his damaged exoskeleton. His own mother had just erased him from the family line. In Talvothi culture, this was worse than death. It meant he had never existed at all. 2 guards dragged him from the arena. They were not gentle. They dumped him in a medical bay where a bored attendant sealed his cracks with quick-hardening resin. No painkillers. No words of comfort. The attendant worked in silence, finished the job, and left without looking at Creevar's face. An hour later, Creevar found himself in the lower commercial sector of the Galactic Council Station. The guards had given him a translation device, a small pack of food rations, and directions to the nearest airlock. The message was clear. Leave or die. The Talvothi had no use for weakness. He walked through corridors filled with aliens from 100 different worlds. Most gave him a wide space when they saw his species markings. The Talvothi had a reputation. Apex predators, dominant warriors, dangerous even to approach. But Creevar knew the truth. He was none of those things. He was just broken. The food rations would last maybe a week. Then what? He had no credits, no skills that anyone would pay for. His own people had made sure he learned nothing except how to fail at being Talvothi. He could not hunt. He could not fight. He could barely survive. Creevar found a quiet corner near a docking bay and sat down. His body hurt. His pride hurt worse. He thought about walking to that airlock the guards had mentioned. Spacing himself would be quick. Cleaner than starving. More honorable than begging. He sat there for hours watching ships come and go. Merchants, diplomats, explorers. All of them had purpose. All of them had somewhere to belong. He had nothing. The pain in his exoskeleton grew worse. The quick seal resin was breaking down. He needed proper medical care, but that cost money. He looked at his rations. Maybe he could sell them. Maybe that would buy him enough painkillers to last until he figured out what to do next. As he struggled to stand, his vision blurred. The pain was too much. His legs gave out. He collapsed against the wall and slid back down. This was it then. He would die here in a forgotten corner of a space station, and no one would care. The void mark did not deserve better. He closed his eyes. Maybe if he slept, the pain would fade. Maybe he would not wake up. Either option seemed fine. Footsteps approached. Creevar did not open his eyes. Probably station security coming to move his body before it started to smell. He waited for the rough hands to grab him. Instead, he heard a voice speaking in a language his translator struggled to process. The words came out choppy. "Hey there, you okay?" "That looks bad." Creevar opened his eyes. A human stood in front of him. He knew the species from galactic databases. Mammals, predators from a death world called Earth. Relatively new to galactic society. Most species did not know what to make of them yet. This human was older, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes. He wore the practical clothes of a ship crew member. Behind him stood another human, this one female with kind eyes and medical insignia on her uniform. "I am fine," Creevar managed to say. The translator made his words sound flat and emotionless. "Leave me." The male human crouched down to Creevar's level. This was either brave or stupid. Getting close to a Talvothi was dangerous. Even a weak one could lash out. "You don't look fine. You look like you need help. I'm Doyen, captain of that ship over there." He pointed to a small cargo vessel docked nearby. "This is Bora, my medical officer." The female human, Bora, was already scanning him with a medical device. She made a worried sound. "Captain, his exoskeleton is failing. Those cracks are deeper than they look. He needs treatment soon or the internal damage will be permanent." "I have no money," Krivar said. He hated how weak his voice sounded. "I cannot pay for medical care." Doyen tilted his head. "Did I ask for payment? Bora, can we move him to the ship?" "If we're careful. His structure is fragile right now." "Then let's be careful." Doyen reached out a hand. Krivar stared at it. In Talavoti culture, offering a hand to a fallen warrior was an insult. It implied they could not rise on their own. It marked them as weak. But these were not Talavothi. Maybe humans meant something different by the gesture. "Why would you help me?" Krivar asked. "You do not know me. My own people have cast me out. I am void-marked. I am nothing." Doyen's expression softened. "Look, I don't know what void-marked means in your culture. But I know what it looks like when someone's been kicked while they're down. And I know that helping costs me nothing but time. So what do you say? Let us help you. At least get you patched up proper. Then you can decide what comes next." Krivar looked at the human's outstretched hand. Everything in his training told him to refuse, to die with whatever dignity he had left. But that training had come from people who called him worthless. Maybe their teaching was as flawed as they said he was. He reached out and took Doyen's hand. The human pulled him up with surprising strength. Bora moved to his other side, supporting his weight. Together, they helped him walk toward their ship. Other aliens in the docking bay stared. A Talvothi being helped by humans. It was strange enough to draw attention. Krivar did not care anymore what others thought. For the first time since the combat trial, he felt something other than pain and shame. It was small, barely there, but real. It might have been hope. He was not sure. He had forgotten what hope felt like. As they entered the ship called Wandering Star, Doyen spoke again. "We've got a spare bed in medical. Get some rest. Bora will fix you up. In the morning, we can talk about what happens next. No pressure. No judgment. Just options. Sound fair?" Krivar nodded. He did not trust his voice anymore. These humans had shown him more kindness in 10 minutes than his own people had shown him in his entire life. He did not understand why, but as Bora guided him to a medical bed that was too soft and too warm, he decided understanding could wait. For now, he would simply accept that maybe, just maybe, he was not going to die alone in that corner after all. Krivar woke to the sound of humming. Someone was working nearby, making a soft melody while they moved around the medical bay. He opened his eyes slowly. The lights were dimmed, gentle on his vision. The air smelled strange. Not bad, just different from what he knew. Bora stood at a workstation, reviewing data on a screen. She noticed him stirring and smiled. "Good morning." "Well, it's morning by ship time anyway. How do you feel?" Krivar tested his body carefully. The cracks in his exoskeleton still ached, but the sharp pain was gone. He could move without feeling like he might shatter. "Better, what did you do?" "Proper medical treatment. Your people use quick-seal resin, right? That's fine for field repairs, but terrible for actual healing. I used a bone knitter modified for crystalline structures. It'll take a few weeks for full recovery, but you won't be in constant pain anymore." She brought over a tray with something that looked like food. "I synthesized this based on Talavothi nutritional needs. Try it and tell me if it tastes terrible." The food was bland but edible. Krivar ate slowly, watching Bora work. She moved with calm efficiency, humming that same melody. She did not seem afraid of him. She did not seem disgusted by him. She just seemed to see him as a patient who needed help. "Why?" The question came out before he could stop it. Bora looked up from her work. "Why what?" "Why help me? Your captain said the same thing yesterday, but I still do not understand. I am Talvothi. My people are not known for kindness to others. We are predators, dominant species. We take what we want. Why would you help one of us?" Bora sat down in a chair across from him. "You're not your people. You're you. And you needed help. That's all the reason I need." She paused. "Besides, humans have a long history of being underdogs ourselves. We know what it's like to be underestimated, to have people assume we're weak or insignificant. Maybe that's why we tend to root for those who get knocked down." Before Krivar could respond, the door opened. Doyen entered with 2 other humans. One was young, maybe barely an adult, with bright eyes and oil stains on his clothes. The other was a woman with short hair and the bearing of a warrior, awake and eating. "That's a good sign." Doyen gestured to the others. This is Taman, our engineer. And Ji-won, security and basically everything else that needs doing. Everyone, this is our guest. I realize we never got your name yesterday. Krivar. He hesitated, though I have no right to claim any name now. The void-marked have no identity. Ji-won frowned. That's stupid. A name is yours. No one can take it away. My people can. They did. Then your people are stupid too. Ji-won crossed her arms. No offense, none taken. You are correct. Taman laughed at that. I like him. Can we keep him, Captain? Doyen shot the young engineer a look. He's not a pet, Taman. Krivar, here's the situation. We're shipping out in 2 days, headed to the frontier colonies. It's a 3-month run. You're welcome to stay aboard until you're fully healed. Then we can drop you wherever you want to go. Or, he paused, if you want to work, we could use an extra pair of hands. The pay isn't great, but it's honest work. Krivar stared at them. You want me to work? I cannot fight. I cannot hunt. I have no skills that would be useful on a ship. Can you learn? Taman asked. I do not know. I was never good at learning Talvoti ways. Good thing we're not teaching you Talvoti ways then. Taman grinned. I can teach you engineering basics. Machinery doesn't care how strong you are, just how smart you work. Ji-won nodded. And I can show you real combat. Not that dominance posturing your people call fighting, actual tactical combat. But I am weak, Krivar said quietly. My exoskeleton is defective. My instincts are dull. I failed every test my people gave me. Doyen pulled up a chair and sat down. Let me tell you about humans, Krivar. Back on our homeworld, we weren't apex predators. We were prey. Medium-sized mammals who got eaten by things bigger and faster than us. We couldn't outrun the predators. We couldn't outfight them. By all logic, we should have gone extinct. But you did not. No, we didn't. Want to know why? Because we learned to think differently. We used tools. We worked together. We adapted. When we couldn't beat something with strength, we outsmarted it. When we couldn't outsmart it, we outlasted it. Humans are stubborn like that. Doyen leaned forward. You failed Talvoti tests because you were trying to be something you're not. Maybe it's time to figure out what you actually are. The words settled into Krivar like seeds in soil. What he actually was. He had spent his whole life trying to be a proper Talvoti warrior and failing. What if that was not the only option? I will work, he said. I will learn. I have nowhere else to go and nothing else to lose. That's the spirit. Sort of. Doyen stood. Bora, how soon can he start light duties? Tomorrow, if he takes it easy. Nothing heavy yet, and so it began. The next 2 days passed in a blur of new experiences. Taman took him to the engine room and showed him the beautiful complexity of the ship's systems. The young engineer talked constantly, explaining how each part worked, how they connected, how problems could be solved with the right thinking. See? You don't need to be strong to fix this coupling, Taman said, demonstrating with a wrench and a clever lever system. You just need to understand leverage. The machine does the hard work. You just have to be smart enough to set it up right. Krivar tried it himself. His weak arms could not have turned the bolt directly, but with the leverage Taman showed him it moved easily. Something clicked in his mind. Strength was not just physical force. It could be applied force. Directed force. Smart force. Ji-won's lessons were different. She took him to the ship's small cargo bay and showed him human fighting techniques. Talvoti fight by overpowering opponents, right? Bigger, faster, stronger wins. Yes, that is why I always lost, and forget that. Human martial arts are based on a different idea. You use your opponent's strength against them. You don't need to be stronger. You need to be smarter, faster in your thinking, better positioned. She demonstrated a throw that used momentum instead of muscle. Try it. Krivar was clumsy at first. His body did not move the way hers did. But Ji-won was patient. She adjusted her teaching to his crystalline structure, finding techniques that worked with his build instead of against it. Slowly, very slowly, he began to understand. Fighting was not just about power. It was about timing, position, strategy. Bora taught him about biology and medicine. She showed him that his genetic difference was not a flaw, but a variation. Every species has genetic diversity, she explained. Humans come in thousands of variations. Different strengths, different abilities, different needs. We don't call that weakness. We call it diversity. It makes us stronger as a species. But it was Doyen who taught him the most important lesson. One night, Krevar found the captain in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He joined him quietly. "Can't sleep?" Doyen asked. "I am thinking too much." "About what?" "About why you are doing this. All of you. You gain nothing from helping me. You risk having a Talavothi on your ship. Other species might avoid you because of it. Yet you teach me. You treat me as if I have value. I do not understand." Doyen was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You know what makes humans different from most species in the galaxy? We remember being weak. We remember when the universe was too big and too dangerous for us. We remember clawing our way up from nothing, and because we remember, we help others who are going through the same thing, not because we gain something, because it's the right thing to do. The Talavothi would call that foolish. The Talavothi threw away someone with potential just because he didn't fit their narrow definition of strength. Who's really being foolish?" Doyen looked at him. "You're learning fast, Krevar. Taman says you have a gift for engineering. Jiwan says you think 3 moves ahead in combat training. Bor says you ask better questions than most medical students. You're not weak. You were just being measured by the wrong standards." Krevar felt something strange in his chest. Pride maybe, or hope, or perhaps just the unfamiliar feeling of being seen as something other than a disappointment. "Thank you, Captain. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see how much work running a cargo ship actually involves." But Doyen smiled as he said it. The ship launched 2 days later, headed for the frontier colonies. Krevar stood in the engine room, wearing a crew uniform that Taman had modified to fit his frame. He had a job to do. He had skills to learn. He had people who believed he could learn them. For the first time in his life, Krevar felt like he might actually belong somewhere. Not as a failed Talavothi, but as something new. Something he was still discovering. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel and the stars stretched into lines of light, Krevar allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, his story was not over. Maybe it was just beginning. 3 months changed everything. Krevar stood in the engine room of the wandering star, his hands moving with confidence as he calibrated the power distribution system. The work that had seemed impossible when he first started now came naturally. His weak arms had learned to use tools. His slow reflexes had learned to anticipate problems before they became emergencies. Taman watched from across the room, grinning. "See? I told you that you'd be good at this. You're better at diagnostics than I am now." "You are still better at repairs," Krevar said, but he felt pleased by the compliment. Compliments had been rare in his old life. Here the crew gave them freely when earned. The ship's communication system crackled. Doyen's voice came through. "All hands to the bridge. We've got a situation." Krevar and Taman exchanged glances and headed up. The bridge was small, barely room for the whole crew. Jiwan was already at the tactical station, her face grim. Bora stood beside Doyen reading something on a datapad. "What's wrong?" Taman asked. Doyen pulled up a holographic display. It showed a small mining colony called Threshold 7, their destination. Red warning indicators flashed across the image. "We just picked up a distress call. The colony is under attack. Korlath Raiders." Krevar felt his exoskeleton tighten. He knew that name. The Korlath were brutal pirates who enslaved or killed anyone they could not sell. They were feared across the frontier. "How many ships?" Jiwan asked, already running tactical calculations. "At least 3 raider vessels. The colony's defenses are failing. They're calling for any ship in range to help with evacuation." Doyen looked at his crew. "It's not our fight. We're a cargo ship, not a military vessel. We could jump past the system, deliver our cargo somewhere else, stay safe." Silence filled the bridge. Krevar watched the faces of his crewmates. Taman looked scared but determined. Bora's jaw was set. Jiwan's hand rested on her weapons locker. None of them looked like they wanted to run. "How many people in the colony?" Bora asked quietly. "About 3,000. Half of them children." More silence. Then Jiwan spoke. "We can't fight 3 raider ships, but we could help evacuate civilians, get them to the emergency shelters or onto escape pods." "It's dangerous," Doyen said. "There's a real chance we don't make it out." "Since when did that stop us from doing the right thing?" Taman's voice shook slightly, but his words were firm. Doyen looked at each of them in turn. When his eyes reached Krevar, he paused. "You don't have to be part of this. You're crew, but you're still recovering. No one would blame you for sitting this one out." Krevar thought about the past 3 months. These humans had saved him when he was broken and alone. They had taught him that strength came in forms his people never recognized. They had given him purpose when he had none, Now they were risking their lives for strangers because it was right. "I will help," Krivar said. The words came out stronger than he expected. "You taught me that protecting others is true strength." "I want to be strong," Doyen nodded slowly. "All right then. G1, break out the emergency gear. Bora, prep medical for potential casualties. Taman, I need the engines ready to run hot. We're going in fast and leaving faster. Krivar, you're with me on the ground. We'll coordinate the evacuation." The next hour was chaos. The wandering star dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Threshold 7 system. Immediately, alarms blared. The 3 Korlath raider ships were massive, built for intimidation and violence. One was bombarding the colony's shields. The other 2 were landing ground troops. Doyen piloted the ship like he was dancing, weaving through debris and weapons fire. "Taman, please tell me those shields are holding." "Barely. We're not built for combat, Captain. Tell me something I don't know." Doyen brought the ship down on the far side of the colony, using the buildings as cover. The landing was rough but successful. The crew geared up quickly. Krivar wore light armor that G1 had modified for his frame. He carried a toolkit and a basic energy weapon. His hands shook slightly. This would be his first real combat situation. G1 put a hand on his shoulder. "Remember what we practiced. Think first, shoot second. Use your head, not just your instincts. You've got this." They exited the ship into smoke and screaming. The colony was in chaos. Buildings burned. People ran in every direction. In the distance, Krivar could see Korlath raiders advancing, their heavy weapons cutting through the colony's desperate defenders. Doyen's voice was calm despite the chaos. "Bora, set up triage near the ship. G1, you're on security. Taman, Krivar, you're with me. We need to get to the central shelter and help with the evacuation route." They moved through the colony in a tight group. Doyen had a map on his handheld device showing the safest paths. Taman worked as they ran, hacking colony doors to open evacuation routes. Krivar watched their backs, his weapon ready but not yet fired. They reached a residential section where a group of colonists were trapped. A collapsed building blocked the main evacuation route. Children cried. Adults looked terrified. And approaching from the other end of the street were Korlath raiders. "Taman, can you clear that rubble?" Doyen asked. "Not fast enough. 5 minutes minimum." "We don't have 5 minutes." G1 raised her weapon. "I'll buy you time." But there were too many raiders. At least 8 of them, all armed, all experienced fighters. G1 was good, but these were bad odds. Krivar felt his training kick in. He analyzed the situation the way G1 had taught him. The raiders were bunched together. The street was narrow. There was a damaged power conduit overhead. "I have an idea," Krivar said. "But I need to get closer." "That's suicide," G1 said. "Not if I'm smart about it." Krivar looked at Doyen. "You taught me that humans survived by thinking different. Let me think different." Doyen studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Do it, we'll cover you." Krivar moved before he could change his mind. He used the rubble for cover, working his way toward the raiders. His heart pounded. Every instinct his people had tried to teach him screamed to charge forward, to fight head-on. He ignored those instincts. They had never served him well. Instead, he used what the humans taught him. He moved quietly. He thought ahead. He saw the battlefield not as a place for dominance, but as a puzzle to solve. The damaged power conduit, the narrow street, the bunched-up raiders, all pieces of the solution. He reached a good position and aimed his weapon at the conduit. Taman had taught him exactly where to shoot to cause a controlled overload. He took a breath, steadied his aim, and fired. The conduit exploded in a shower of sparks and energy. It crashed down onto the street, blocking the raiders' path and showering them with electrical discharge. They scattered, disorganized, and surprised. Jiwan did not waste the opportunity. She opened fire on the confused raiders, her shots precise and controlled. 2 went down. The others retreated, seeking cover. "Go!" Doyen shouted to the colonists. "Move now!" Taman worked frantically on the rubble, using a portable cutter to clear a path. The colonists streamed through, heading toward the evacuation shelters. Parents carried children. The elderly helped each other move. But the victory was brief. From around a corner came something that made Krivar's blood freeze. A Korlath berserker, massive, armored, carrying a weapon that could cut through walls. It roared when it saw them and charged. "Everyone back!" Jiwan stepped forward, firing her weapon. The shots barely scratched the berserker's armor. It swatted her aside like she weighed nothing. She hit the wall hard and did not get up. G1. Bora's voice came through the comm. I'm on my way. Hold on. But the berserker was between them and G1's fallen form. It turned toward the fleeing colonists, toward the children who were still trying to get through the rubble. Krivar did not think. He just moved. He put himself between the berserker and the civilians. His weapon was in his hands. His mind was racing. This thing was twice his size. Its armor was military grade. Its strength was overwhelming. By every measure, he could not win this fight. But he had learned that strength was not about overpowering an enemy. It was about finding the weakness and exploiting it. The berserker charged at him. At the last second, Krivar dodged, using a move G1 had drilled into him hundreds of times. The berserker's momentum carried it past him. Krivar fired at its knee joint, the weak point Bora had mentioned in her xenobiology lessons. The shot connected. The berserker stumbled but did not fall. It turned, now focused entirely on Krivar. Perfect. As long as it was focused on him, the civilians could escape. The fight was brutal. Krivar dodged and struck, dodged and struck. He could not match the berserker's power, so he did not try. He stayed mobile. He aimed for weak points. He used the environment. When the berserker swung its massive weapon, he made it hit support beams and walls instead of him. His exoskeleton cracked from a glancing blow. Pain shot through him, but he kept fighting. Not because his instincts told him to. Because he chose to. Because these people needed someone to stand between them and death. Because the humans had taught him that protecting others was worth any cost. He led the berserker near another damaged power system. Taemon's lessons echoed in his mind. He fired again at just the right spot. The explosion was bigger this time. The berserker was caught in the blast, its armor finally breaching. Krivar did not hesitate. He rushed forward while the creature was stunned and drove his weapon into the exposed weak point at its neck. The berserker fell. Silence. Krivar stood over the fallen enemy, breathing hard, his body screaming in pain. Around him, the colonists stared in shock. A Talvothi had just saved them, a species known for taking, not protecting. Doyen appeared at his side. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. You taught me to choose what I protect, Krivar managed to say. I chose them. Bora arrived with a medical kit heading straight for G1. The security officer was alive, just unconscious. The evacuation continued. More ships arrived to help. The raiders, seeing organized resistance, began to withdraw. As the sun set over Threshold 7, Krivar sat against a wall, letting Bora treat his new injuries. His body hurt. His exoskeleton needed repair again. But inside he felt something he had never felt before. He felt strong. The video went viral across the galactic network. Someone in Threshold 7 had recorded the fight. Krivar, the outcast Talvothi, defeating a Korloth berserker to protect human colonists. The footage spread from system to system. Within days, everyone was talking about it. The Wandering Star docked at a repair station 2 weeks later. Krivar stepped off the ship and found himself recognized immediately. Aliens from a dozen species stared. Some looked amazed. Others looked confused. A few looked angry. This is weird, Taemon muttered beside him. People keep pointing at you. I do not like it, Krivar said. He had spent his life trying to be invisible. Being famous felt wrong. Doyen led them through the station toward a supply vendor. People cleared a path. Some whispered. A young alien approached nervously and asked Krivar to sign a datapad. He had no idea what to do, so he just pressed his palm to the screen and left his heat signature. The alien looked thrilled. You're a hero, Bora said, amused. How does it feel? Uncomfortable. Get used to it. That video has 50 million views now. They were loading supplies onto the ship when a Galactic Council official approached. She was a Valorian, a species known for bureaucratic efficiency. Krivar of Talvoth? I am no longer of Talvoth. I am of the Wandering Star. The official checked her datapad. Regardless of your personal affiliations, the Galactic Council has granted you protected status as an independent operator. This means you cannot be claimed by any faction against your will. It also means you have the right to refuse cultural mandates from your birth species. She handed him an official document. Congratulations. You're one of only 50 beings in the galaxy with this status. Krivar stared at the document. Protected status was rare, given only to those who had performed exceptional acts of valor. It meant the Talvothi could not legally force him to return. He was truly free, but the official's expression turned serious. However, there is a complication. The Talvothi Empire has issued a formal response to your actions. I'm required to inform you. She pressed another file to his datapad. The message was from High Huntress Velkara, his broodmother. He read it aloud for the crew. Krivar, void-marked in exile. Your actions have brought shame upon the Talvothi people. You hide behind inferior species and call it strength. You use machines and tricks and call it victory. You have forgotten the true way of power. Therefore, I have authorized your sibling, Thexikal, honored warrior of the Talvothi Empire, to issue formal challenge. You will face him in traditional combat. If you win, you may reclaim your place among our people. If you lose, you die as void-marked, and the humans who corrupted you will be declared enemies of the Empire. You have 1 solar week to respond. The silence that followed was heavy. Jiwan spoke first, her voice angry. They can't do that. They cast you out. They have no right to demand anything from you now. The Valorian official shook her head. Actually, under traditional Talvothi law, family members can issue blood challenges even to exiles. If Krivar refuses, the Empire can claim he died without honor, which carries consequences for anyone who associates with him. That's blackmail, Doyun said flatly. Yes, but it's legal blackmail under Galactic Council rules. Each species is allowed to maintain their cultural traditions, even unpleasant ones. The official looked at Krivar. You don't have to accept, but know that refusing will have consequences. After she left, the crew gathered in the ship's common room. Krivar sat quietly while they debated. It's a trap, Jiwan said. They want to kill you publicly to save face. Of course it's a trap, Taman agreed. That's what bullies do when someone makes them look bad. Bora was reviewing data on her medical pad. Thexkal is a full warrior. His exoskeleton is twice as strong as Krivar's, even after our treatments. His reflexes are in the top percentile for Talvothi. In a traditional dominance fight, the odds are... She paused. Not good. Then we refuse, Doyen said. We find another way. The council gave you protected status. We can work with that. But Krivar had been thinking. He remembered that day in the arena when Thexkal defeated him. He remembered the shame, the pain, the feeling of being worthless. He was not that person anymore. The humans had taught him that strength came in many forms. I will accept, he said quietly. Everyone started talking at once. Krivar raised his hand for silence. Listen, if I refuse, the Talvothi will come after you. They will make your lives difficult. They will threaten you. I cannot allow that. You saved me. You taught me. You gave me a home when I had nothing. He looked at each of them. Besides, I am not the same fighter who lost to Thexkal before. You made sure of that, Jiwan studied him. You really think you can beat him? I do not know. But I know I will not lose the same way. I will fight using everything you taught me. Maybe that will be enough. Traditional Talvothi combat means no weapons, no armor, Bora said. Just bare strength, I know. But strength is not just physical force. You taught me that too. Doyen was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right. If you're sure about this, we'll support you. But we're going to prepare. Jiwan, work with him on strategy. Bora, optimize his physical condition. Taman, research everything we can find about traditional Talvothi combat arenas. We're not sending him in blind. The next week was intense. Jiwan drilled him constantly on fighting techniques, focusing on using his opponent's momentum and finding weak points. She made him practice until the moves became instinct. Bora worked on his physical conditioning, strengthening his exoskeleton as much as possible without breaking Talvothi combat rules. She taught him pressure points on Talvothi anatomy that his people never discussed because acknowledging weak points was considered shameful. Timon discovered that traditional arenas had specific layouts with environmental features that could be used strategically. He helped Krivar memorize common configurations. Doyen taught him the mental game. Combat is mostly here, he said, tapping his head. You need to make Thexkal fight your fight, not his. Make him angry, make him sloppy, make him doubt. You can't beat him with strength, so beat him with thinking. The day of the challenge arrived. The arena was on the Galactic Council station, in a space normally reserved for diplomatic functions. But today it was transformed into a traditional Talvothi combat circle. Thousands watched in person. Millions more watched via broadcasts across the galaxy. Krivar entered the arena alone. The Wandering Star crew was forbidden from accompanying. him onto the combat floor, but they watched from the front row. He could feel their support even from a distance. Across the circle stood Thexakal. His sibling looked magnificent in traditional warrior markings, his exoskeleton perfect and gleaming. He looked at Krivar with contempt. "You should have stayed in the shadows," Void marked. "Now you will die in front of the galaxy, and everyone will see what happens to those who forget their place." High Huntress Velkara stood in the position of honor, just as she had at his first combat trial. Her face showed the same cold indifference. The challenge is issued and accepted. The rules are traditional: no weapons, no armor. Combat ends when one fighter yields or dies. Begin. Thexkal charged immediately, using pure speed and aggression. It was the Talavothi way. Overwhelm the enemy before they could think. Krivar did not meet the charge. He sidestepped, just as Jiwan had taught him, letting Thexkal's momentum carry him past. His sibling turned, snarling, "Stand and fight!" "I am fighting, just not your way." This made Thexakal angry. Good. Angry fighters made mistakes. He charged again, this time with a sweeping strike designed to catch Krivar even if he dodged. But Krivar had practiced against this exact move hundreds of times with G1. He dropped low, felt the strike pass overhead, and swept at Thexkal's legs. His sibling stumbled but did not fall. The crowd murmured. A void marked making a warrior stumble was unexpected. The fight continued. Thexakal was stronger, faster, more aggressive. But Krivar was smarter, more patient, more adaptable. He used the arena layout that Taymond had helped him memorize. He aimed for the weak points Bora had taught him. He stayed calm while Thexakal grew frustrated. Minutes passed, then 10 minutes, then 20. Thexakal was breathing hard now. He was used to quick victories through overwhelming force. This drawn-out tactical fight was unfamiliar territory. He made more mistakes. His attacks became wilder. Krivar's body hurt. His exoskeleton had cracks. But he had fought through worse at Threshold 7. He kept moving, kept thinking, kept adapting. Then Thexkal made a critical error. Frustrated and tired, he committed to a full-power charge with no backup plan. It was pure Talavothi pride, pure certainty that strength would win. Krivar saw the opening. Everything G1 had taught him came together in one moment. He sidestepped at the last instant, grabbed Thexakal's arm using a leverage technique, and used his sibling's own momentum to throw him to the ground, hard. Thexakal's exoskeleton cracked. He tried to rise, but Krivar was already there, positioned perfectly. One strike to a pressure point and his sibling collapsed, unable to continue. The arena went silent. Krivar stood over his fallen sibling. By Talavothi law, he should deliver the killing blow now. Thexkal looked up at him with hatred and fear mixed together. Krivar raised his hand. The crowd leaned forward. Velkara stood, her expression unreadable. Then Krivar lowered his hand and stepped back. "No," he said clearly. "Strength is not just about who can kill. The humans taught me that true strength is about who you choose to save. I will not kill my sibling. I will not become what the Talavothi want me to be. I choose a different path." He turned to face the crowd. "I am Krivar, not void-marked, not exiled, not failed. I am crew of the Wandering Star. I am someone the humans taught to see strength differently, and I choose to show mercy." He walked toward his crew, leaving Thexakal alive on the arena floor. The silence broke into chaos. Some Talavothi shouted in outrage. Others looked confused, but beings from other species cheered. Doyen met him at the edge of the arena with a smile. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. Again." "Is there a difference? With you?" "I'm starting to think there isn't." As they left the arena together, Krivar did not look back at his former people. He had proven what needed proving, not to them, but to himself. He was strong, just not in the way they measured strength, and that was perfectly fine. 6 months after the duel, the Wandering Star docked at a frontier trading post called Haven's Rest. Krivar had become used to the stairs by now. His face was recognized across the galaxy. Some saw him as a hero. Others saw him as a traitor to his species. He had stopped caring about either opinion. What mattered was the work. The crew had shifted their focus from simple cargo runs to something more meaningful. They now traveled routes that larger ships ignored, bringing supplies to colonies that corporations deemed unprofitable. They helped settlements that could not afford big security contracts. They rescued stranded travelers that others left behind. It was not glamorous work. It did not pay well, but it felt right. Doyen checked the supply manifest while Taman supervised the loading. Bora was in the local medical clinic, sharing knowledge with the frontier doctor. Jiwon stood with Krivar near the docking bay entrance watching the crowd. There, Jiwon said quietly, nodding toward a figure in the shadows. Krivar had already spotted it, a young Talvothi, barely past adolescence, watching them nervously. This had been happening more often lately. Outcasts from various species seeking out the wandering star, seeking out Krivar. The young Talvothi approached slowly. "Are you Krivar? The one who fought Thexcal?" "I am. My name is Rekvon. I am void-marked. My clutch rejected me because my hunting instincts are weak. I saw what you did. How you fought, how you chose mercy. I wondered," the young one's voice broke. "I wondered if there might be another way. For those like us?" Krivar looked at Jiwon. She gave a slight nod. They had discussed this possibility. The ship could not take everyone, but they could help. "Come aboard," Krivar said. "We will talk." Later that evening, the crew gathered in the common room. Rekvon sat nervously among them, still not quite believing that humans would willingly share space with a Talvothi. "So here's the situation," Doyen said. "We're getting more requests like this. Outcasts, rejects, those who don't fit their species' expectations. They hear about Krivar and think maybe we can help them too." "Can we?" Taman asked. "Not all of them. We're one small ship, but maybe we can do something." Doyen pulled up a star chart. "There are dozens of frontier colonies that need workers. Places that don't care about species politics or cultural expectations. They just need people willing to work hard and learn. We could connect outcasts with these places, give them a chance to start over. Like a network," Bora said thoughtfully. "We find them, assess their skills, match them with places that need those skills." "Exactly. We can't save everyone, but we can help some. Isn't that what humans do? Start small and build from there?" Jiwon looked at Krivar. "What do you think? This was your journey that started it. Should we make it bigger?" Krivar thought about the day he collapsed in that docking bay, ready to die. He thought about the humans who stopped to help when they had no reason to. He thought about everything he had learned since then. "Yes," he said, "we should help. Not because we can save everyone, but because we can save someone. That is what you taught me. That is true strength." The decision made, they began working on the network. Taman set up secure communication channels. Bora created assessment protocols to match individuals with suitable opportunities. Jiwon established security measures to prevent infiltration by those with bad intentions. Doyen negotiated with frontier colonies willing to give outcasts a chance, and Krivar became the face of it all. He spoke to those who came seeking help. He shared his story. He taught them what the humans had taught him. That strength came in many forms. That failure by one standard did not mean failure by all standards. That choosing compassion over dominance was not weakness. Word spread. The network grew. A young Valorian who could not meet her species' psionic requirements found work as a linguist on a human colony. A Korlath who refused to raid and pillage became a security consultant, teaching colonies how to defend against his former people. A Zentari whose artistic talents were deemed useless by his profit-focused culture created beautiful works that brought joy to struggling settlements. Not everyone they helped succeeded. Some could not adapt. Some returned to their old ways. But enough succeeded that the network kept growing. Hope, it turned out, was contagious. 3 months into the network's operation, the wandering star received an encrypted message. Krivar read it in the privacy of the captain's quarters with Doyen present. It was from High Huntress Velkara, his brood mother, Krivar. "I do not write this with approval or pride. I write it with necessity. Thexcal has denounced the traditional ways. Your mercy in the arena shamed him, but it also opened his eyes. He has gathered followers, young Talvothi who question the path of dominance. They call themselves the New Path. The Empire's elders see them as traitors. Civil conflict grows. Already there have been challenges, fights, deaths. The Empire fractures. I write not to ask for help. Talavothi pride forbids that. I write to provide coordinates. A meeting place. Should you choose to come? Should you choose to speak? Perhaps the void marked was never weak. Perhaps we were blind. Perhaps there are forms of strength we failed to recognize. The choice is yours. The message ended with coordinates to a neutral space station near Talavothi territory. Doyen read the message twice. It could be a trap. It could be, Krivar agreed. They cast you out. They called you worthless. They tried to kill you. You don't owe them anything. I know. But you want to go anyway. Krivar was quiet for a moment. The humans saved me when they did not have to. They taught me when I gave them nothing in return. They showed me that the strong help the weak not for gain but because it is right. The Talavothi are not weak but they are lost. If I can help them find a better path, should I not try? Doyen smiled. You've learned well. Too well, maybe. You're starting to sound like a human. Is that bad? No, it's good. It means you understand that strength isn't about species or biology. It's about choices. He stood and headed for the door. I'll tell the crew to set course for those coordinates. But Krivar? We're going in ready for anything. If it is a trap, we fight our way out together. Together, Krivar repeated. The word felt good. The journey to the neutral station took 2 weeks. During that time, Krivar prepared. Not for combat, though. Jiwan made sure he was ready for that possibility. He prepared to teach. He organized his thoughts about what the humans had shown him. About different forms of strength. About choosing compassion over dominance. About adaptation and cooperation. And the stubborn refusal to accept that failure defined you. When they arrived at the station, they found it was no trap. Thexkel waited there, along with nearly 100 young Talavothi. All of them wore simple clothes without traditional warrior markings. All of them looked at Krivar with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Velkara was there too, standing apart from the group. She looked older than Krivar remembered, tired. Thexkel approached first. His exoskeleton still showed cracks from their duel. He had not repaired them. Brother, I call you that now, though I have no right. You showed me mercy when I deserved none. You showed me a different path when I thought only one path existed. I was wrong. The Empire was wrong. We want to learn, if you will teach us. Behind him, the other young Talavothi echoed the sentiment. They wanted to change. They wanted to evolve. They wanted to find strength beyond dominance. Krivar looked at them, then at his crew. Doyen gave him an encouraging nod. Bora smiled. Taemin gave a thumbs up. Jiwan rested her hand on her weapon but looked relaxed. He turned back to the gathered Talavothi. I am not a teacher. I am still learning myself, but I will share what the humans taught me. I will tell you my story, and perhaps together we can find a new way forward. Not the human way, not the old Talavothi way, but something new, something better. What followed was days of discussion. Krivar spoke about his journey. The crew shared human history, philosophy, and practical knowledge. The young Talavothi listened, questioned, debated. Some rejected the ideas and left, but most stayed. Most wanted to try this new path. Velkara spoke to Krivar only once briefly before she departed. I failed you as a broodmother. I see that now. You were not weak. You were different. And difference, I am learning, is not the same as deficiency. The Empire will not change quickly. Many will resist. But these young ones, they are the future. You have given them something I could not. Hope. For that I owe you thanks. She left before he could respond. Perhaps that was better. Some wounds took time to heal. The wandering star eventually departed the station, but the work continued. The young Talavothi spread across the frontier, learning new ways to be strong. Some joined the outcast network. Others founded new settlements based on cooperation rather than dominance. A few even joined human crews seeking to learn more. Change came slowly to the Talavothi Empire. The elders resisted. But the New Path movement grew, not through conquest or force, but through choice. Young Talavothi saw that there were other ways to live, other measures of worth, and slowly, gradually, the empire began to evolve. A year after the meeting at the neutral station, Krivar stood on the bridge of the Wandering Star. They were en route to another frontier colony, another place that needed help. Rekavon was with them now, learning engineering from Taemin. The ship had become a true symbol of change, a bridge between different ways of being. Doyen joined him at the viewport. Thinking deep thoughts? thinking about how far I have come. A year and a half ago I was broken and alone, ready to die. Now I have family. I have purpose. I have helped others find both. It seems impossible. Nothing's impossible. Just unlikely. And humans specialize in making unlikely things happen. Doyen paused. You know, you've taught us as much as we taught you. You've shown us that the human way isn't just for humans. That the ideas we value, adaptability and compassion and stubborn hope, they can work for anyone willing to try them. The Talvothi have a saying, the strong take, the weak are taken. I have learned a new saying, the strong protect, the wise adapt, the compassionate endure. I like that. Very human of you. Krivar smiled. It was an expression he had learned from his crew. I am Talvothi. I am crew of the Wandering Star. I am someone who was called weak until I learned what true strength means. I am all of these things, and that is enough. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. Stars stretched into lines of light. Ahead lay more colonies to help, more outcasts to guide, more chances to prove that strength came in many forms. The journey was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But Krivar was no longer afraid of the journey. He had learned the greatest human lesson of all. You did not need to know where you were going, as long as you kept moving forward. You did not need to be the strongest, as long as you were willing to learn. You did not need to do everything as long as you did something. In the end, that was what made humans special in the galaxy. Not that they were strong or smart or brave, though they were all those things. What made them special was their belief that anyone could become those things if given the chance. That worth was not determined by birth or biology or culture, but by choices and actions and the willingness to keep trying, even when the odds seemed impossible. Krivar had been called the Predator's child. He had been called weak. But the humans had taught him strength. Not the strength of dominance or violence, but the strength of compassion, adaptability, and hope. And that strength he had learned could change the galaxy one life at a time. The Wandering Star traveled on, carrying its crew toward the next adventure. And Krivar traveled with them, no longer an outcast or a failure, but something new, something better, something he chose to be. He was strong, not despite being different, but because of it. And that made all the difference.